Hello and welcome to Artstyle Breakdown. In this series, I will do my best to break down some artists that we love and admires art style, and hopefully I'm going to be able to show you guys the inner structures, concepts, and ideas that make their art so beautiful and fluid. And for the first episode, I'm going to try and dissect a little Gotouge's art style. She's Demon Slayer creator and mangaka. Her drawings are beautiful and she has this very distinct, fluid drawing art style. Now, if you think that I can teach you a thing or two and you are on the process of developing your own art style, consider booking a one-on-one consulting session with me. I have the link on Calendly down below in the description, and right there you're gonna find everything that you need. Now, let's get straight to it. So as I said before, for the first video, I really wanted to try and break down a little Gotouge's art style. She is responsible for Demon Slayer. Of course, there's helpers drawing the manga and all, but their style is hers. This is her style, and it's very distinct. It's very clean, it's very beautiful, and for me at least, it's one of the most compelling art styles that we have nowadays, for at least for the mainstream shonen manga. And although I don't feel entitled enough to break down every single aspect of her drawings, I think I can show a thing or two and point out at some details that you might have overlooked or not even noticed when you were reading the manga or looking at the panels. Now, the first thing that came to my mind while I was looking at these panels and trying to figure out the overall rules she uses to draw, I realized the eyes are very distinct. And this is kind of obvious, because if you have watched this anime or read this manga, it's very clear that these eyes are very different, but I think very few people actually pay attention to the very specific details. You might miss what makes them special. And one of the main features of these kind of eyes for me is this geometrical shape she uses for eyes. It's not round, and it's funny because her drawings are kind of a mixture between roundness and sharpness. The edges are very sharp, but at the same time, the structures and the shapes, the body shapes she uses are very round. So you can see right here in Tanjiro's face that he has this overall roundness to his head. We're gonna see later on also on the hands and even on the muscles of the characters. But at the same time, you see a lot of sharpness. You see straight edges on the hair, on the eyebrows, on the bottom of the eyes, and also on the pupils. So you have this hexagonal shape almost. It's kind of a hexagonal, rounded hexagonal shape. Okay, so as I draw, I'm trying to voice over it so it doesn't look weird, and I try to hold the microphone while I draw. It's gonna be awful. I actually use both hands to draw because my eraser is on Ctrl Z. Anyways, if you pay closer attention to it, you're going to notice that the eyes, actually not just the eyes, but the whole face and the whole body is very clean. There's not a lot of details that don't try to convey something. And this shows a lot of economy on the lines, which is interesting because it shows the skills of the artist without making them actually indulge on too many details. It's not that she doesn't draw details because she doesn't want to necessarily, but because she's very smart with her lines. Now, while the overall eye shape is usually very round, mainly on the bottom and on the upper part, the extremes of the eyes are very round. The iris and the pupils, they are very squarey. They have this pointy feeling to it. And it's not that there is not any roundness to it, but the overall shapes are very squarey. Even if you look at Tanjiro's right eye, for us it's on the left part of the drawing, you're gonna see that it's a little pointy. It's squarey but also pointy. And you can see the same thing on the ears. So in Tanjiro's ears, you can see pretty much the same thing, which is these square and round shapes kind of playing with each other. And you have to intercalate them very well if you want your drawing to have the same effect that her drawings have. And the second thing that I want to point out is actually the use of thin and thick lines. The thicker lines are used more towards places that you would see a little bit more of shading, so her drawings are not very shaded. This manga is not very shaded at all. But in the places that you would see some shading, you not only see these lines representing the shade, but also a thicker line usage. So in the ears, in the parts that the lines are representing folds in your ear, you can actually see that she has used thicker lines too, and this happens a lot. So in the mouth, it happens the same thing in the mouth. If you look at Tanjiro's mouth, in the right and left corner of his mouth, you see the use of thicker lines to represent this depth. Now, one very interesting thing in her style is this bulkiness on the muscles. Like every time she's trying to represent some strength being applied, some force being applied on a specific muscle, it's very pumped. And like this might seem obvious, but this pumping is actually way larger than you would usually see in manga. You don't actually see as often manga characters getting buffier in their muscles when they apply strength. It's interesting. It's funny how that doesn't happen as often. But anyways, in her style, you're gonna see not just in this panel, but in other panels later on, that the muscles are very buffy, and like mainly when they are like doing some harsh movement. But when they're also standing, you don't see that as often because most characters are covered. They use kimonos, but in the cases that you see them not using them, you can see the muscles clearly, like rounded shape muscles defining the whole character. Like I forgot his name right now, but this character's biceps are so pumped. You would not see that in real life. If you are lucky, you don't want to see that in real life. They are very pumped, and this use of the lines to represent, they are not used only for natural strength representation, but also to show that a lot of pressure is being applied. And you're gonna see this as well when you see characters getting mad, when they get angry, when they get frustrated, etc. You also see the use of lines to represent veins. Now, while everybody is always paying attention to the characters and the bodies and the facial expressions, and this is, of course, what makes her style so recognizable, one thing that Gotouge does so well, and that I see so few people talking about, is actually the drawings of patterns, element patterns. In this example, I've used fire, but you can apply the same logic for all elements in her drawings. So there's this distinct texture in her elements, in the drawings of fire and water and electricity, that you can kind of see the shape of the element and the way she makes it flow around shapes and objects and bodies. It's so beautiful, because usually you see a very straight dynamic to an element, to fire for instance, but in her case you see that it flows very well. So it's like this fire is getting affected by gravity. So you see there's a little bounce on the fire. There's some areas in which it's kind of weighting it, so it's rounded, right? Instead of the fire being just pointy, it's rounded and having pointing edges. And the way she achieves this, and she does this way better than I can do, is using a lot of very sharp, very thin lines clustered together. Like they're used very intelligently, and they are sparsed only when she wants to distinct the shapes. So for this panel, for instance, the whole blade is on flames, and you can see that the areas in which the fire shapes around itself, that it kind of curves, is the same areas that you have a lot of negative space, the space between shapes, the space between lines. And for the fire there's a lot of negative space, but the edges are so clustered with a lot of very sharp lines that all you can pay attention to, all your eyes can really bother to pay a closer attention to, is the dynamic of the fire. So it's very well done. And all together with that, you also have these lighting effects that I have not drawn here, but it uses the same principle of using very, very, very sharp, very thin lines to create this effect of glowing. So if you pay closer attention to Tanjiro's vest, the lighting effect is done by a lot of sharp lines, and you can do that after you have a black background for the vest, and then you apply white lines on it. You don't have to like apply the black lines and then color the rest of the vest. You can do the opposite and use the white lines as kind of a extra coloring on top of it. You can do that easily on digital software. It's more difficult to do that with traditional material, but you can also do that definitely. But yeah, you can see there's a lot of sharp lines, and this indicates this kind of glow effect, because if the lines were not sharp enough, it would just look like it's light but not that it's glowing, and fire needs this glowing effect. So this is also achieved by these very sharp lines on the fire, on this kind of fire bubbles. Let's put it like this: fire bubbles. Now, one thing that you might have noticed, but which you might not have thought it's as important as it is, which is the size of the characters. The proportions are interesting because characters are small in this manga, and I've used Tanjiro as an example just because I thought this panel was very beautiful. And by the way, I'm drawing him shirtless because I wanted to show more the proportions. With this insane clothing on top, it's kind of difficult to see, but the characters have shorter proportions, and this applies for everything, for all characters. They are not chibi, but they have this more cute thing to them. They are on the shorter side of the spectrum. And if we think about animal culture as a whole, and of course anime is not a style, there's a lot of different anime styles, but if we think about most anime styles, characters are usually more slim, and because of that they have lengthier body parts. For her characters, all of them, pretty much all of them, even the female characters, are pretty buffy. And when you're not seeing the muscles so bulky, you are seeing the shapes of the muscles. So everything is well defined. Everything is so well defined. So everywhere you look at the character, there's a line going somewhere. You don't see a lot of lengthy lines. So characters are more chibi because of that. So characters are more on the smaller side of the spectrum because of that, essentially. Two things that I want to convey drawing Tanjiro here. The first one is that head shapes are very round. Just like the body is a little smaller and like shorter in overall for all characters, their head shapes are also very round. And I actually think like the head shapes are one of the few things in her art style that are consistently round, that have very, very few cases in which they have these sharper lines. So all heads in the manga are, first of all, they have big foreheads, and this makes them look cute, and second of all, they are very round. But the second thing actually is the hair, because most characters in Demon Slayer, at least in the manga, have black hair. Now, the characters might have red, blue, green hair in the anime, and even in the painted official artworks for them, but in the manga you have to convey color with black and white and gray hairs, that's all. And even the use of gray is very limited. Usually it's used for characters who have more lighter toned colors for their hairs, like yellow and pink. But for red, for dark red, like Tanjiro's hair for instance, she uses black. And you have to define very well the lines inside black areas, because if you want to make this hair look like hair and not like a black mass, you have to draw over the black colored filled canvas with white lines so you can define well the hair. Now, what this ends up doing is that for a matter of consistency, pretty much all hairs in this manga are relatively easy to draw. Not the shapes necessarily, not the intricacies, but the details. Like there are very few complicated strands mixing with each other, tangling with each other. They are all very clearly defined, and you can easily see where they're going. Like if you look at Tanjiro's hair, you can see in which direction each strand of hair is going. So it's very easy to keep an eye on it, and it doesn't look bad to the eyes. So if you're trying to imitate this kind of flow for the hair, just keep in mind, have very simple strands of hair and don't try to overcomplicate it. Like just have a notion of where each group of strands of hair are going to. And for this last one, I'm actually not going to draw anything because my phone's battery is almost over. Oops, but I actually want to show you something. Remember when I said that characters' bodies are very bulky in overall, they have very defined muscles? You can see that even here, because like in this example, you don't usually associate these shapes with bulky. But if you take a look at how the arms have different shapes, and like very clearly different shapes, even for a character who's not bulky. They have very different shapes. They're very different sizes actually. If you compare one point to another, like the limits of every body part, they are very different, they're very distinct. So if you also take a look at her leg, for instance, this right here is a very toned muscle. This is not achieved naturally if you don't do too many reps, but she's obviously not a bulky character. So again, you can see the muscles well defined in the drawing, even if the character is not very bulky. The difference in size between this part of the leg and this one is very big. It might not seem like this, but we are comparing this to other anime art styles, which are again usually more on the more leaner side of things. And hopefully with this video I could provide you with some valuable insights into Demon Slayer's art style. If you want to hear me talk more about this specifically, about Demon Slayer again, just comment down below so I can make a part 2 maybe. Or if you want a different artist's art style for me to break down, also feel free to comment please. And again, if you want a one-on-one with me on deciding to try and develop and craft your own art style, definitely try and book a session with me. Again, links are in the description and you'll find any details that you might need right there. And if you've liked this video, please like and subscribe so more people can also see this kind of thing and maybe learn a little bit. And at last but not least, thank you so much for watching me and to trust in my taste in art and my skills. And hopefully I will see you next time. See ya.